In this lecture, we will learn how and where to use the 3 types of rectangle tools. So these are the 2-point rectangle, 3-point rectangle, and the center point rectangle. So to demonstrate this, I will work in a new design, but if you want to work from the previous file where we did the line tool, if you got that open, great. If it's not open, no worries. Come up to the show data panel. Make sure you go to home and then select the according project, in this case, Fusion course project. Then you should have the file that we called first sketch there, right click and select open. But for me, I'm going to work in a new design for this one. So let's go up to the top left, again on the solid, let's hit create sketch. And for this, we could choose any plane, but I only go with the XY plane in this case. Then let's go up to our create tools. And then you can see there, we've got the 2-point rectangle, which is the shortcut R on the keyboard. Now, if we hit the drop down and then we come under rectangle here, you see there are the 3 options here. The 2-point rectangle, which is the standard, that's most commonly used to have a rectangle. The 3-point rectangle, which I very rarely use, only in some instances. And then we've got the center rectangle, and that's a fairly commonly used tool as well. So we've got the shortcut R on the keyboard. And then if we look on the right-hand side, we've got the sketch palette. So I'm just going to bring that to the center now. In terms of feature options, we can actually pre-select which type of rectangle we want, 2-point, 3-point, or center. So just by hitting R on the keyboard, we can then just quickly choose there, as opposed to going to create rectangle and then choosing the appropriate one there. So I'll just put the palette over there for now. So again, I'm going to start from the origin. I'm just going to pan across by holding down the middle mouse button. I'm going to start at 000, that's the origin. I'm going to bring the mouse out, and as we can see here, we're forming a rectangle. And again, just like the line tool, we've got parameter options which we can input. For this particular case, I'm going to put in 80 millimeters, and let's do that by 40 and height, press enter. And there we have our complete profile there. A rectangle that features all black lines, that's fully constrained. Now you notice these symbols that will pop up here. Now these indicate constraints, which we'll be covering in a later lecture, but just to give you a bit of a heads up, this symbol here represents a horizontal constraint. Now this symbol is tied to this line. So this line is indefinitely horizontal, but we cannot change the angle, cannot make it vertical, or that is horizontal, and likewise the same with this one. So that's one of the powerful features behind using the 2-point rectangle tool. And likewise, for the vertical lines, you'll see this symbol here. Okay, so same symbol, but just in a different orientation. So it being vertical here indicates a vertical constraint on this line, and the same is also apparent on this line as well. It's a fantastic tool, and it's much quicker than drawing out a rectangle with the line tool, and then perhaps having to add your individual dimensions and constraints on top of that. So it's a quick way to just get a rectangular geometry. I'm going to pan across now, and I want to demonstrate the next rectangle tool. Let's go for the 3-point. So I'm going to press R on the keyboard, and under my sketch palette, just going to click 3-point rectangle, throw that back over there. I'm going to click once, so not on the origin this time. I'm just going to go somewhere on the x-axis. So it's called 3-point because we do 3 clicks. We identify 3 locations for this rectangle to form. So we got the starting point, which I clicked already. Now I need to do one more left click, which I'm just going to do anywhere. Let's say here. I need to do one more click now. And if I draw the mouse out, I then need to define the height. So in the first 2 clicks, I defined the angle and also the length. And then in the 3rd click, I define the height. I'm just going to put that in as 50 mil for now. Now again, I very rarely use the 3-point rectangle. It's only in certain cases. But you may find yourself using this more and more regularly, depending on the geometries that you're regularly drawing. Now notice again here that this rectangle is completely blue. All edges and all the corners are all blue. That means we can move it anywhere. So if I hold down the left mouse button at this point, for example, I can move it. And also we don't have a dimension on this line. I'm going to go ahead and add press D on the keyboard, select this line. I'll put a length in there of 110. Then if I try that again, so the dimensions are fixed, but in this case, I'm able to move that around. Then that will be so until we anchor down one of these corner points here. So that's the 3-point rectangle. Now I'm going to press R on the keyboard one last time, and we're going to take a look at the center rectangle. This has got a commonly used rectangle where we only need to identify 2 points to define the rectangle. So the very first being the center. In this case, I'd have select on the x-axis there. And my second point then will define both the length and the height. So I've got control of that corner point there, or I can input dimensions. So in this case, let's go 150 by, let's go 80. And then I can also control the position of this rectangle using the center of the rectangle. I can hold down the left mouse button and I can move that around to say wherever it would need to be. And we see here as well that it's also going to put a number of constraints. So this type of constraint here is called a parallel constraint. So this is parallel to this line here. And likewise with these two vertical lines. And then down here, we've got one more constraint, which is perpendicular. So we've got that 90-degree angle there. I like to use the center point rectangle whenever I'm mirroring entities because I've got the center point of it identified already. So I can do any mirror lines down the center or across the horizontal. We'll be doing that in a later lecture. But those are the 3 rectangle tools. Again, the most common is the 2-point rectangle. It sits right up here and it's the first selection when we hit R on the keyboard. And next most popular would be the center point rectangle. And then the third, and only for special cases, we do see 3-point rectangle. So we'll be using rectangles in the later examples, and I will see you in the next lecture.